Welcome back to Histories Tech, and we are going to be starting a new series on experimental aircraft. And this idea came about because of the recent unveiling of the Lockheed Martin X-59 aircraft. Now, this aircraft isn't brand new, but they have finally produced a flight-ready aircraft. And if everything goes according to plan, they will be able to produce a supersonic aircraft that will be able to produce what's known as a quiet sonic boom, which could lead to a revolution in commercial airliner traffic. But because of this aircraft, I started thinking about experimental aircraft in general, and that got me to thinking about what's the unusual experimental aircraft. And the very first one I could come up with that I was really thinking about is known as the circular wing aircraft. To put that in the plainest terms possible, it is an aircraft with a wing in a circular shape, like seen here with the Nemeth parasol. And the actual idea behind this design is not some crazy radical redesign of aircraft or anything like that. In fact, the whole purpose of this aircraft being built was to build an aircraft that would be much more easy to store inside of a hangar. Stephen Nemeth, the designer of the Nemeth parasol, had this idea that the conventional aircraft's wings were too large and weren't easy to store inside of, say, a barn or anything like that. So he wanted a way to be able to fit these aircraft into a smaller space. So he came up with this radically different design, hoping that it would be effective. Now, the actual flying version of this aircraft, created by Nemeth, was about 15 feet wide, had a top speed of 135 miles per hour, and because of this incredibly large circular wing, it could take off in as little as 63 feet. And while this proved the design was a success, there was almost no interest in the aircraft after testing, and it was pretty much abandoned. However, it did inspire a few aircraft later on. However, only 4 years after the Nemeth parasol, a farmer by the name of Arthur Sachs entered a design contest for model aircraft, and his was known as the AS-1 circular wing. And while the model was absolutely atrocious, it did attract some attention as a potential future design. So Arthur Sachs went back, started developing more prototypes, and eventually built his first full-scale prototype, the AS-6. And the actual overall aircraft was not something that was completely built from the ground up. It actually incorporated a lot of parts from the Messerschmitt Bf-109B and the Messerschmitt Bf-108 Typhoon. And Sachs would actually spend most of 1944 into early 1945 actually testing the aircraft, trying different pilots, different capabilities for it. It just really didn't pan out, and the prototype would actually be destroyed in 1945 by a strafing run. But looking at the design, you can kind of see why many people believe this is where the idea that the Germans had developed a UFO came from. Now, the final major attempt at a flying disc wing aircraft actually came from Vought, and their first design was known as the Vought V-173, betterwise known as the Flying Pancake, and this is because of its rather unique shape. And this really kind of takes the circular wing to the next level by incorporating the circular wing not in a traditional tractor formation of an aircraft, but by doing a dual engine setup on it. Now, the Flying Pancake was essentially built as a proof of concept. They were trying to see if the circular wing design could actually work in an aircraft. Now, the aircraft was actually fully supported by the U.S. Navy because had it worked, it would have meant an aircraft that needed a relatively short deck space to take off of an aircraft carrier or off of a small airfield, say on an island in the Pacific during World War II. Now, the aircraft actually went through a lot of testing, and they even brought in pilots such as Charles Lindbergh to try to test out what its capabilities were. They found that it was absolutely horrible at low speeds, that turning at these speeds turned it into a giant air brake, which would make it difficult as an attack craft. However, the plan went ahead that they would go ahead and build a bigger aircraft. And the final test of the 173 was made in 1947, and by then, they had actually started reporting seeing UFOs in the New England area where they were testing it, and it's believed that this can be contributed to the 173. Now, even before they finished the testing of the 173, Vought went ahead and built the XF5U, which is actually a scaled-up, larger version of the 173. Now, had this design worked, this would have ended up becoming the production model for Vought on this new circular wing aircraft. However, it suffered from many of the same problems as the 173. There was some major issues with the wingtips creating a vortices with a lot of energy, which was actually creating a lot of drag on the aircraft, which made it unstable at certain speeds. And while they did manage to fix this issue and a few others, such as some cockpit issues, and had actually gone ahead and developed a ejection seat for this aircraft and what kind of weapons it was going to use, by the time all this was done, it was too late. It was 1947, the age of the jet had arrived, and the Navy was transitioning away from propeller-driven aircraft slowly. And sadly, the aircraft never even got to truly fly before it was mothballed. And that pretty much ends the legacy of the circular wing aircraft. Now, if you actually want to see the only one still in existence, you can go to Dallas, Texas, to the Frontiers of Flight Museum, located near Love Field, and you can actually see this along with other aircraft. I actually highly recommend this, as they have several really good exhibits on Vought aircraft additionally. So there you have it, a quick look at the very short existence of the circular wing aircraft, with only a few ever made. And while it was a rather innovative idea for its time, it's just not a design we'll probably ever see be repeated, just due to a lot of the instability issues that was created by it. But that's it for today. I will be talking about more experimental aircraft in the future, so please look out for that, and look forward to talking to you all the next time.